Today, we're diving into a text that's as deeply poetic as it is profound. It's called The Resplendent Ocean of Divine Unity, and right at its heart, it wrestles with one of the biggest questions we can ask ourselves.
And here's the question. How can our small, limited human minds possibly wrap themselves around something that is, by its very definition, infinite? Something that's beyond all description. This text doesn't just ask that question, it actually offers us a path toward an answer. So let's walk that path together, starting with the fundamental challenge.
The text kicks things off with this powerful image. Just think about that for a second. A bird, soaring as high as it can possibly go. And yet, even at the absolute peak of its flight, it still falls infinitely short of this divine reality. This really sets the stage, right? It establishes this immense gap between what we can perceive and what is ultimately true.
Okay, so our first step is to really get a handle on this distinction. The writing draws a very, very clear line in the sand between the nature of the creator and the nature of the creature. And yeah, that's us.
Now, what's so fascinating here is the sheer contrast. On one side, you've got this reality that is completely self-sufficient, majestic, totally inaccessible. And then on the other side, there's humanity, described as dependent, poor, and powerless in comparison. Now, this isn't meant to be demeaning, not at all. It's really about clarifying the fundamental relationship. And this is where things take a really interesting turn. The text completely reframes this idea of servitude. It's not some heavy burden. Instead, it's presented as a gift, a fundamental connection that's actually a gracious favor. It's the very thing that ties the finite to the infinite.
So that raises a question, right? If this connection exists, why don't we feel it more clearly? Well, according to this text, it's because there are things in our way, obstacles it calls the veils of desire. And the metaphors used to describe these distractions are just so vivid. The material world is like vapor in a desert, something a thirsty person might chase, only to discover it was never really there. Our attachments are described as a lifeless image of the real thing we're searching for. These aren't just objects. There are selfish desires, our vain imitations that literally blind us. And this brings us to a crucial warning. The text is urging us directly not to set our hearts on this show, because it only looks real. It has the appearance of reality, but not the substance. This is the core problem that keeps us from seeing things as they truly are.
But here's the pivot. After laying out the problem, the text presents this incredibly powerful solution. And guess what? The solution isn't somewhere out there in the world, it's right inside the human heart, which is compared to a mirror for the sun.
And this is so important, because it gets to a core idea here. This is personal. The text says that every single person has been created with this inner capacity. Your faith, your understanding, it can't be dependent on anyone else. The potential is already built in. So how do you actually unlock that potential? Well, the text lays out this beautiful three-step process. First, you've got to polish that mirror, the heart, with love. Second, you have to detach from all those illusions we were just talking about. And third, once that mirror is clean and clear, you just let the divine sun reflect inside of it.
The result of doing this is, well, it's profound. It leads to the state of unity described in this mystical quote. It's not just about seeing or hearing about the divine anymore, it's that the divine presence becomes the very lens through which you experience the world. The Master, as it says, finally appears within his own home.
And this all leads to one of the most stunning revelations in the entire text. Remember, we started with this idea of a distant, inaccessible reality, but once the heart is pure, that whole perception gets flipped on its head.
So that shoreless ocean of spiritual wealth we started with, get this, it turns out it's astonishingly near. The distance we thought was there, it was never real. It was an illusion created by the veils we put up ourselves.
And wow, it doesn't get more intimate or personal than that, closer than your life faint. This one line just shatters that initial idea of an unreachable God. The ultimate reality isn't just accessible, it's woven into the very fabric of who we are. It's this incredible paradox. It's both totally transcendent and closer than our own breath.
So where does this all lead? What's the ultimate outcome for someone who walks this path? What's the big promise for the seeker who cleanses that mirror and recognizes what's closer than their own life vein? And here we come full circle, back to that incredible metaphor of the bird. Our soul is naturally meant to soar in the heavens of knowledge. But hunger, our worldly desires, it pulls us back down. The soul gets caught in the mesh of its desire and finds itself stuck on the ground, unable to fly.
And what is it that weighs down the wings?
the text gets really specific here. It's the clay of waywardness, our vain desires, and the dust of envy and hate. These are the things that keep the soul from reaching its true home, from its natural state of flight. But, and this is a huge but, for those who manage to clean their wings of all that dust and clay, the promise is just magnificent. The text doesn't talk about a single heaven, but of worlds, plural, holy and spiritually glorious, that will be unveiled right before your eyes. That's the destiny that awaits.
And so we end by turning this beautiful metaphor into a personal question. This text lays out a whole path for us, from recognizing our own limits to discovering an infinite reality right inside ourselves. It suggests your soul is like a bird, made for the heavens. So the only real question left for us to think about is this: what dust is holding down your wings?